Hola, buenos días. Welcome to Cafecito con HACE. Mi nombre es Berenice Vargas Luna. I am a senior program manager here at the HACE organization, and I am your host for today. If you're new to the community, let me share a little bit about who HACE is. HACE stands for the Hispanic Alliance for Career Enhancement, and we have been around for 40-something years. We are a national nonprofit dedicated to the employment, to the development, and the advancement of Latino and diverse professionals. Since 1982, as I mentioned, we've been around here for a while. We've served as a resource for Latinos, for communities in the workplace. And we serve as a subject matter expert for corporations seeking to access that diverse talent that is so needed, essential, and critical in the workplace. Through professional development, through resources, networks, and facilitating access to meaningful career opportunities, we help individuals succeed in every phase of their career. We work with employers, we work with the individual to increasingly support economic force by helping others attract, develop, and retain diverse professionals. And so thank you all so much for joining us. With me today, our guest is a true jefa, Ilhiana Rojas Saldana, who is the co-founder and president of United Latinas, a community space for creating visibility, growth, and leadership for Latinas. Good morning, Ilhiana.
Hi. I'm so grateful to be here. Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon. Good whatever, wherever in the world you are. I'm so excited and so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. We've connected a lot in the last few weeks or months, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that here in just a moment. But a couple of announcements before we get started. Two great announcements to share with you. Our HACE Annual Leadership Summit is returning April 29th through the 30th at the Willis Tower. This is our annual leadership summit. It's a 2-day event with the theme of Breaking Barreras, with 3 conference tracks to help guide you through professional development. So if you are here local to Chicago, you can join us in that space. If you are not local to Chicago and can't travel, we do have a virtual summit option. So be sure to check on the link that we drop in the chat and check those options out. We hope to see you there because La Comunidad gets together, we dance, we have fun, and we learn and peer mentor one another. It's a great opportunity to connect. The other announcement that we have is our spring program. So spring is around the corner, everything's in bloom. And so we want to highlight our Mujeres de HACE program, our spring cohort season. Mujeres de HACE is the longest standing leadership development program that is in the HACE portfolio. And so we just hosted an info session. So if you'd like to get a recording of that, send me a message through LinkedIn or in the chat here. We can send those information or the detail out to you. And please note that we do have tuition assistance and payment plans available for that investment into leadership development for yourself. Okay, let's move on. So Ilhiana, let's get back to you. How do you like your cafecito or your favorite beverage or choice in the morning?
So I actually do tea. I do chai latte. And the reason is because I can't do caffeine. So I definitely cannot do coffee, not in the morning, not ever. It has this horrible effect. And I learned that the hard way. That's for another story because it's a funny story how I learned it. Well, not funny at the time, but now that I look back on it. But I definitely prefer tea and especially a good hot chai tea in the morning. Gets me up and running.
I love that. I think there's a lot of teas out there with a lot of benefits, right? The caffeine, the herbal medicine, we won't even get into it, right? But don't neglect herbal medicine. Thank you for sharing that, Ilhiana. Yo soy cafetera. Maybe I'm trying to do coffee in the morning and tea in the afternoon instead of coffee all day. So I'm making slow, gradual changes, but I'm getting there. But I usually start with a little cafecito in the morning. But my favorite is café de olla, if you're familiar.
Oh my God, yes. I've heard of it. I can't say that I've tasted it because again, can't do the caffeine, but the smell of it is just amazing.
Yes, that is my favorite. I will pick that over anything, anytime that I can. So drop in the chat, share with us what is your favorite beverage in the morning. There's Team Cafe, Team Te, there's Team Agua. I've heard Team Red Bull. Let us know. Share what gets you going in the morning. So, Ilhiana, we are just so thrilled to have you here. As I mentioned, you've been in the ASE community world for quite a bit some time and very intentional as well. So, for viewers who may not know, can you briefly share your journey from global executive leadership to co-founding United Latinas? Give us those breadcrumbs. Give us that journey, how that brought you from one space to the other.
Well, actually, the breadcrumbs go even further, a little bit back. And my career path or my professional path has, been defined by being curious, taking risks, making bold moves, and trusting people that have opened the doors for me. And I think ASE is a great example of part of that journey. But I really started when I graduated from chemical engineering back in the day, many, many decades ago, and then went into marketing in P&G. So that just shows that, I've always been in this non-linear traditional career path because I've taken all of these different risks without knowing it, to be honest. And that led me to have a fast track career path along the corporate ladder between marketing and sales and opening new businesses, going into public relationships, licensing, media, entertainment, like anything that you can think of, I've done. And it really has to do with that curiosity and that, inspiration of creating meaningful and long lasting impact. I love to learn new things. The more they scare me, because all of these moves scare me, but the more they scare me, the more I've learned that, okay, that's where I need to move. And then towards the end of my corporate career, the last 5 years, unfortunately, I went into, I'm not going to say a serious depression, but I was maybe very close to it. And it was because I realized that I was so focused on work, so focused on achieving results, that I alienated myself from myself, right? From my people, from my community, from what really mattered. And that had a serious impact. And that led me to step out of corporate and to reconnect with myself. And in that process, I became a coach, an executive coach, started my first company, Believe, which to this day stands, and then opened up just like an amazing opportunity of things becoming that, not only the coach, but a keynote speaker, best-selling author, board member, advisor, serial entrepreneur. Like the sky's the limit, and the plans that I have for the next, 3 decades are just like whatever comes. I'm just thrilled and excited. But it really all boils down to helping people and guiding people through the silent challenges and unscripted paths of leadership. And also realizing along the way that I was a Latina, because in my corporate career, I didn't know that I was a Latina, and that had huge impact. And so reaching out to my Latina community after is what led me to connect with Sandra Noemi Torres, who's my co-founder for United Latinas and the original, founder of United Latinas, and kicking it off as a formal organization now focused on elevating the voices, the impact, and the presence of Latinas. So it's been an amazing, amazing journey. I can't tell you how blessed I've been of all of these changes. But everything really that I do is now centered around guiding people to embrace the power of their voice and take their next bold move.
Amazing, Ilhiana. So I heard a lot. The first thing I heard was fearless. There was a sense of fearlessness about you, and you named it, and then curiosity, which drove, loving to learn, which I think when you have that to motivate you past the fear, because like I said, you sound like you're fearless, but you acknowledged that there was fear there, but the risk, you were willing to take the risk because there were other things motivating you. And so I think that is so important to highlight that even, and thank you for acknowledging and sharing about your depression as well, because I think, one, we don't talk about it right in our communities, pero it is something that affects us in very different ways, and we have to acknowledge it
Yeah.
and then learn from that. What is this? Why is this here? And for you, it made help you align and focus on other things. And because you were part of that hustle of I'm going to do the next thing and the next thing, but also looking at the journey, right? And enjoying that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And reconnecting with who we are, right? It's so easy to get lost, especially in this fast-paced environment that we're in and all the pressures that come to us every day. It's so easy to get lost in the expectations that others have of you, and then disconnect in what truly drives you. And that has become now very clear to me.
I love it. And I think when you have that renewed mission and purpose, then you have clarity, right? You know what direction, you know what you're doing, and that keeps motivating you. So thank you so much for sharing that. Let's move to organization. So you to walk us through really what I feel what brought you to co-found or found the United Latinas organization is to offer that support that maybe you didn't experience along the way, noticing that might have been the only Latina in the room. So talk a little bit about the collaboration, right? For example, us and United Latinas have collaborated for years, right, to share those resources and those tools and really that information for Latinas across the U.S. So along the way, how have partnerships like that been influential, important to the United Latinas mission?
I love that question because in the end, I think I've realized that I need to work with people. It's ingrained in who I am, collaborating, looking always for shared opportunities, for shared goals, for shared values, and especially in that part of my life where I was very, very lonely, I didn't realize how I truly craved for that camaraderie, that collaboration. And being a part of many companies and organizations and different groups, I've seen personally how no organization drives impact alone. Like no leader drives impact alone. And that competition, that scarcity mentality that is still out there, unfortunately, really serves absolutely no one, right? It pulls people down instead of elevating all of us up. And partnerships like the one that we've had now for many, many years are powerful because they expand what's possible for our communities and for the people that we serve, right? Putting that, when I put my business hat on, I did the numbers about a couple of years ago, and I was looking at HACE and Alpha and Prospanica and United Latinas and Latinas in Tech and all of the different Hispanic driven organizations, and assuming that we all have unique members that don't cross over, which we know is not true because we share members across, but assuming that each of us, only tap into our members and nobody else. If we add all of those, we don't even reach 1% of the Hispanics in the US. Like not even 1%. So we can't call ourselves competition between us. Like we need to come together so that we can create more access to resources, so that we can create more visibility to our leaders, and in our case, Latina leaders, right? To create more opportunities for growth and connection, because resources are not limitless, but we all bring this uniqueness in perspectives, in ways to approach. We complement each other, and sharing that will only amplify our impact across. And I truly believe that. In everything that I do. And when Latina leaders and organizations connect intentionally, then collaboration becomes a catalyst for collective power.
Oh my God, Ilhiana. Okay, so I love the business hat data, um, because you do have to put on that hat and look at things differently. And in doing so, wow, what perspective you gain from that, realizing that less than 1% is that that's still like processing in my mind, because it's just amazing, because you would assume that the number would be very, very different. And so, and you also said, resources are not limitless. And I think that the more that we collaborate and share that information, the more opportunities you'll find, versus keeping things to yourself, but then others aren't giving to you either. And so you're walking that path alone. You think that you are helping or serving yourself, but I feel like it's almost, it's contradiction to that. You're not helping yourself either, or opening yourself up for support.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So let's look at leadership programs, right? The work that we do, what you learn from your corporate and into coaching, and then into, United Latinas, with leadership programs across the US and Latin America. What are those cross-cultural leadership lessons that we can apply locally to communities? So if we're saying that resources are limitless, we have to go to the community, right? But what can we learn from one another when we do that?
So I've worked across the whole world. I started my career in Mexico. I came to the US. And as a coach, I work with, with corporations in Europe and in Asia. And I've been all around the globe. And I've seen how leadership styles may seem to vary widely across cultures. Like, I think that's one of the first things that one of the first beliefs. But again, when you go deeper, and that's the engineering side of my brain, like trying to find the root cause of things and what really drives people and motivates people and gets people to do, the things that they do, I've realized that we have actually more things in common than we have apart. The majority of us, we have we want to be seen, we want to be heard, we want to be valued, we want to be respected, right? It doesn't matter the language, it doesn't matter the background, it doesn't matter the lived experience. We just want to be valued in that way. And as leaders, we need to be intentional about going beyond the superficial assumptions or perceptions that we have of others, so that we can connect with our teams, with our direct reports, with the people that we lead at a human level. Because we come from hierarchical norms, or from beliefs that some people are more knowledgeable than others because of their background, their certificate, how they look, a lot of these things. And we create these stories, these assumptions in our heads, and that immediately stops us from truly seeing each other as humans, as capable, as amazing individuals. So and that it doesn't matter your background, it just matters your intentionality and moving beyond that first veil so that we can connect, right? This has to be intentional on a daily basis around how are we showing up as leaders? How are we showing up as individuals? And it is really those micro moments with others that can make a significant difference in how you connect, in how you build trust, in how you can make somebody feel heard or dismissed. And then that has significant trickle effects. I actually launched late last year a blog. It's called the Breakthrough Blog, and you can read about it. It's thebreakthrough.blog online. And what I do is every other week, I bring up all of these things that I've learned from my own personal experience as a coach, as a leader, from hearing from others, and make very tangible, actionable reflections, practices, strategies, so that we can all become better, more intentional leaders in how we connect. Because it doesn't matter where you are in the world, where you are in the role, where you are in your career. Many of these things, many of these practices, many of these beliefs are are relatively the same or very, very similar. And the concerns, the challenges, the barriers that we have, if we are able to ground them in that, reflection moment, we can truly create, a trickle effect of impact. I don't believe that there are bad leaders out there. I believe that there are leaders who just haven't yet discovered the impact of their leadership. And I think that's where ACE's work lies. That's where my work lies. That's where, United Latinas and many of us that work from a leadership perspective lies in creating that awareness and then, that transformation.
So I heard root causes, and what really stood out to me was focusing on shared needs, because we all have the same basic needs, we all want the same things, but if we change that to needs, then we're able to make, as you said, that human connection. And especially in the virtual space, I think we tend to see less of each other as a human, because you're just in my Zoom window and I don't get to feel you, right, in the same way. And so I think this taps into that even more now, wouldn't you think, in terms of coming from a grounded space versus focusing on what's different?
Absolutely. And virtual spaces, well, digital spaces in general, but also the day to day. I mean, people working from home or people not being, everything is fast paced. It feels like everybody's agenda is meeting after meeting after meeting. So the humanity of connection, of just talking to each other, like, how was your weekend? How's your family? Just getting to know each other as people, as individuals, as humans, that is so precious in becoming a true leader, because now you're able to connect with other people in based on who they are and what they do and their story and what their strengths are, and you can go beyond those perceptions. And right now, the virtual space doesn't help, but also the physical space, just being so fast paced, doesn't allow for those moments either. So we need to be very intentional every day. That's why I talk about these intentional micro moments, so that we can, every time carve just 5 minutes, 10 minutes. It doesn't take a lot, just to be human and create those connections, those spaces around us.
I love that, and thank you for calling that out. I'll share the programs team, my team members. We meet virtually on Friday for a cafecito, and we just converse what's going on, you
Yeah.
know, having a human, no work conversation. And it's something that I look forward to, because I love the people that I work with, and we get to connect on a human level, to go back to that connection. And so I think that means a lot. But you're right, we have to create those moments.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not part of your meeting agenda of the day. You have to create space for that.
No, no, no. And we all come up with, many of us are task oriented, right? We have what we need to do throughout the day, because there's no time, or we feel that there's no time and that I have so many things that I need to do. So I need to be hyper focused on getting this in the report and, chatting with you on the next steps and blah, blah, blah. And we don't create those spaces, but we don't need a lot of time. I actually also, on LinkedIn, I have a blog. It's called the Catalyst Mindset, and the last week I just talk about time, the paradigm of time, and how the belief that we have that there is no time, and it's just the perspective on how we see our time and our focus and the choice that we make on how we're going to spend our time, because that's our choice. It's nobody else's choice, right? So those type of things, we need to be more intentional about how we show up, how we choose our time, how we connect with each other. We need to go back to those essentials, basically.
So bring us home with, and I think you touched on these already, but a lot of this is boundaries and prioritizing yourself over others, which is not something that we're taught as Latinas. So let's talk about those strengths that that Latinas bring to leadership, that go under recognized because it's just the norm or expected, but it's a true strength. So talk to us about those a little bit.
Absolutely. And I can't speak for all Latinas. I mean, we're not all the same, right? We all bring a unique range of strengths to any space that we're in. So I can't say that all Latinas bring these strengths. However, in general, what I've seen is many of us bring a strong sense of community orientation and a collective mindset, and that's driven by our strong family values that that come from our heritage. There's also a lot of resilience and grit and adaptability that I consistently see showing up again and again. How we navigate these multiple systems. And then there's the cross cultural intelligence, right? Many of us are first generation, we're bilingual, so we have all of these different cultures that we've lived through, different perspectives that we bring because we come from another side of the world, and coming into this one, right? So there's all of these different layers that add a richness to the spaces that we're in. The challenge is that we do it in silence. We don't tell people, we don't let people know about, the things that we do, the magic that we bring to the table, the legacy, like all of that. We don't, we just go in and we do our work and then move along to the next. So that's where I've been focused now on elevate, making it my personal mission to elevate those unheard voices, and make sure that people, Latinas, anybody that feels unheard, can embrace their voice and feels comfortable in speaking up and letting other people know, hey, this is me, this is how awesome I am, and feel proud, right? Not like they're bragging, but because you need to be proud of who you are. And to me, when Latinas value, our strengths, we own our worth, then all of these qualities that we bring to the table become powerful leadership assets. But we need to do that shift in our minds to be able to get there.
I love that. Thank you for that. The silence part. I think there's a lot that comes with asking for help. Sometimes we don't know how or who or that we should, or there's shame or guilt tied to asking for help or support. But as you mentioned earlier, there's so many organizations that are there specifically for that. And as you mentioned, if we're reaching a 1% of the community, then we can see now the ripple effect of doing it in silence, of not getting the support with, inequity pay and right, all of those things. And so thank you so much for sharing that. I want to call out a question that we received here from the audience, and it's from Annie Garcia. How to recognize patterns of burnout? What is the best thing to do when you are feeling stressed and depressed? And I think that's something that we go through pretty often, right?
Yes. And I would say again, everybody experiences in a different way. But if you keep getting to Friday, like, you can't get up out of you can't get out of bed anymore. And you're struggling to find a reason to start on Mondays, like that's a red flag right there, that something is off, something's not, you're not being able to have the energy. And we're very good at justifying why. We're very good at saying, oh, it's just this week was very tough. It's just when this project is done, right, I'm going to go back to normal. When this thing is launched, when, like, I went that way for 5 years. Like, there's always a good excuse to why we're tired, why we're exhausted, why we're angry, why we're upset, why we're frustrated. And we keep, like, creating all of these excuses. If that has become like a norm, then see it as a red flag that there's something more that's happening there. And definitely seek out, to your point, to what you were saying, uh, seek out for help, for professional help. Seek out to somebody that can, help you, because we are very good at justifying, because how can we say that we need help, right? But definitely, if you keep getting to those Fridays and can't get up on Monday, or find a reason why to get up on Monday, definitely a red flag.
Thank you so much, Ilhiana. I will take that as, the important action that you can take this year for yourself. We're in the year of the fire horse, right? I
Yeah.
still feel right. I still feel bring spring is blooming, and so I feel there's this sense of movement, right? We're dusting off the winter hibernation feels, and so I feel like that is the action that we can take is reflecting what is making you unhappy, seeking support, and then taking small steps because small steps are impactful too.
Oh, yes. Yes. It's those micro moments. It doesn't have to be big. It just has to be like small little things at a time, but those compounded can make a significant difference.
Amazing, Ilhiana. I feel so inspired, and I am going to seek out micro moments through the day, through the week. I hope you do too. Thank you so much for sharing really so much wisdom and insight that I know is, if you've been watching the chat, has been landing and resonating. Thank you for sharing the blogs. I saw those links be dropped in the chat. Be sure to check those out, get more of that wisdom that Ilhiana has gathered along the way through all those different roles that she's had. And thank you so much for joining us, Ilhiana.
Thank you so much for having me. It was wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day. Hasta luego.
Bye.